Alexander Archer Vandergrift was born on March 13, 1887, in Charlottesville, Virginia, where his father was an architect and a contractor. Vandergrift was of Dutch ancestry, all of which had been in North America since the 1600s. It was once fatuously remarked that he, quote, never had a Catholic ancestor, unquote. The young Vandergrift, also known as Archer in his boyhood, had an interest in the military, both from reading military history novels and from stories of ancestors of his who had fought in various wars. He graduated from Charlottesville High School. During his childhood, he was a big fan of G.A. Henty novels, and history in particular. He read a lot about the Battle of Trafalgar and the Battle of Waterloo as well, and described himself as a, quote, big fan, unquote, of Arthur Wellesley, the first Duke of Wellington, and also Horatio Nelson. He attended the University of Virginia from 1906 to 1908. He left without a degree, and after 2 years accepted his commission into the United States Marine Corps. Vandergrift received his commission in the U.S. Marine Corps through a week-long competitive examination in 1908. He was formally commissioned as a second lieutenant on January 22, 1909. At the Marine Corps schools in 1909, he wrote a prophetic article titled, quote, Aviation, the Cavalry of the Future, unquote. As commandant, he was appointed to the Hageboom Board, named for then Major General Hageboom, which helped the Marines develop the vertical envelopment doctrine and the use of helicopters for air assault. That was in 1909 when they started working on that. That's amazing. During his early years in the Marine Corps as a second lieutenant, Vandergrift was very nearly dismissed from the Marine Corps for disciplinary infractions and negative evaluations. In his first Marine Corps evaluation, dated June 30th, 1909, Vandergrift received an overall rating of not good. That's really bad. And listen to what the commander of the Marine School remarked about this. Quote, this officer has not shown that he appreciates the responsibilities of his position as an officer, and unless there is decisive improvement, his relations will not be to the advantage of this service, unquote, meaning he ought to be fired. In Vandergrift's next evaluation in December of 1909, he received a good and tolerable rating. His next was rated as excellent upon reporting to the Marine Corps Barracks, Navy Yard, Portsmouth, New Hampshire in 1910. Following instruction at the Marine Officers School in Port Royal, South Carolina, his first tour was at the Marine Barracks in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. In 1912, he went to the foreign shore duty in the Caribbean, first to Cuba, then to Nicaragua, where he performed and participated in the bombardment, assault, and capture of the Coyolite de Fortress. In 1914, he participated in the engagement and occupation of Veracruz, Mexico. In December of 1914, after his promotion to be first lieutenant, he attended the advanced base course at the Marine Barracks in Philadelphia. Upon completion of training, he sailed for Haiti and the 1st Marine Regiment and participated in action against the Cacos bandits at Le Trois and Fort Capoy in Haiti. In August of 1916, he was promoted to captain and became member of the Haitian Constabulary at Port-au-Prince, where he remained until he was detached to the United States in December of 1918. He returned to Haiti again in July of 1919 to serve as the Gendarmerie de Haiti as an inspector of the constabulary. He was promoted to major in June of 1920. Major Vandergrift returned to the U.S. in April of 1923 and was assigned to the Marine Barracks, Marine Corps Base, Quantico, Virginia. He completed the field officers course at the Marine Corps School in May of 1926. He was then transferred to the Marine Corps Base, San Diego, California, as the Assistant Chief of Staff. In February of 1927, he sailed for China, where he served as Operations and Training Officer of the 3rd Marines with headquarters in Tinian. He was ordered to Washington, D.C. in September of 1928, where he became Assistant Chief Coordinator, Bureau of the Budget. After his duty in Washington, he joined the Marine Barracks in Quantico, where he became Assistant Chief of Staff, G1 Section, Fleet Marine Force. During that engagement in June of 1934, he was promoted to Lieutenant Colonel. Ordered to China in June of 1935, Lieutenant Colonel Vandergrift served successively as executive officer and commanding officer of the Marine Detachment at the American Embassy in Beiping, which is now, of course, Beijing. Promoted to colonel in September 1936, Vandergrift reported to the headquarters Marine Corps in Washington, D.C. in June 1937, where he became military secretary to the Major General Commandant. In March 1940, he was appointed assistant to the Major General Commandant, and the following month, he was promoted to Brigadier General. Brigadier General Vandergrift was ordered to the 1st Marine Division in November 1941. Shortly before the U.S. entered World War II, he had become, on, of all days, December 7th, the assistant commander of the 1st Marine Division. In March and April of 1942, Vandergrift was promoted to Major General and assumed command of the 1st Marine Division. In May, the 1st Marine Division and the South Pacific Amphibious Force sailed to the South Pacific area. The 1st Marine Division was the first Marine Corps division to ever leave the shores of the United States. On August 7th, Vandergrift led the 1st Marine Division in its first large-scale operations against the Japanese in the Solomon Islands, the invasion, of course, of Guadalcanal. He was awarded the Navy Cross, quote, for extraordinary heroism and distinguished devotion to duty as commanding general of the 1st Marine Division and all the ground troops action with enemy Japanese forces during the attack on the Solomon Islands, 7th August 1942. The attack, of course, as I mentioned, on Guadalcanal, as well as Tulagi and Gavutu. He was later awarded the Medal of Honor. Vandergrift was presented the Medal of Honor on February 5, 1943, from President Franklin Delano Roosevelt during the ceremony at the White House. Here's how the citation reads, quote, for outstanding and heroic accomplishment above and beyond the call of duty as commanding officer of the 1st Marine Division in operations against enemy Japanese forces in the Solomon Islands during the period from 7th August to 9th of December 1942, with the adverse factors of weather, terrain, and disease making his task a difficult and hazardous undertaking, and with his command eventually including sea, land, and air forces of the Army, Navy, and Marine Corps, Major General Vandergrift achieved marked success in the commanding of the initial landings of the U.S. forces in the Solomon Islands and in their subsequent occupation. His tenacity, courage, and resourcefulness prevailed against a strong, determined, and experienced enemy, and the gallant fighting spirit of the men under his inspiring leadership enabled them to withstand aerial, land, and sea bombardment, to surmount all obstacles, and leave a disorganized and ravaged enemy. This dangerous but vital mission, accomplished at the constant risk of his life, resulted in securing a valuable base for further operations of our forces against the enemy, and its successful completion reflects great credit upon Major General Vandergrift, his command, and the U.S. Naval Services, unquote. In July of 1943, Vandergrift commanded the 1st Marine Amphibious Corps in the landing at Empress Bay, Bougainville, in the north part of the Solomon Islands, up the slot there, on November 1st of 1943. Upon establishing the initial bridgehead, he relinquished command and returned to Washington, D.C. as Commandant Designate. On January 1st, 1944, as a lieutenant general, he was sworn in as the 18th Commandant of the United States Marine Corps. On April 4th, 1945, he was appointed general with date of rank from March 21st, 1945, the first Marine officer on active duty to ever attain a 4-star rank. During his tenure as commandant, The Marine Corps faced institutional threats from the U.S. Army to absorb the mission of the Marines. The U.S. Navy was sympathetic to the Marine Corps' predicament, but was ready to accept the diminishment of the Corps in exchange for keeping naval aviation from consolidating with the U.S. Air Force. The post-war discussion on the restructuring of the American defense establishment opened the door to diminishing the mission and the role of the Marine Corps in the new defensive structure. Proponents of this idea included President Harry Truman and General Dwight D. Eisenhower. In that power struggle, the Marine Corps aligned itself with the U.S. Congress in warning against the encroachment on civilian oversight within the Army's proposals. To clinch the support of Congress, Commandant Vandergrift delivered the then famous Bended Knee speech on May 6, 1946, to the Senate Committee on Naval Affairs, and here's how he ended it. Quote, "The Marine Corps, then, believes that it has earned the right to have its future decided by the legislative body which created it, nothing more. Sentiment is not a valid consideration in determining questions of national security. We have pride in ourselves and in our past, but we do not rest our case on any presumed ground of gratitude owing us from the nation. The bended knee is not a tradition of our Corps. If the Marine, as a fighting man, has not made a case for himself after 170 years of service, he must go. But I think you will agree with me that he has earned the right to depart with dignity and honor, not by subjugation to the status of uselessness and servility planned for him by the War Department." Unquote. Wow. What a speech. Needless to say, the Marine Corps survived. For outstanding service as Commandant of the Marine Corps from January 1st, 1944 to June 30th, 1946, General Vandergrift was awarded the Navy Distinguished Service Medal. He was relieved as Commandant on December 31st, 1947, but was not formally retired and placed on the retired list until April 1st, 1949. Together with Robert B. Asprey, General Vandergrift co-authored a book chronicling his experiences in World War II. The book is titled, Once a Marine, The Memoirs of General A. Vandergrift, Commandant of the U.S. Marines in World War II, and was published in 1964. General Vandergrift died on May 8, 1973, at the National Naval Medical Center in Bethsaida, Maryland, after a long illness. His internment was on the 10th of May, 1973, at the Arlington National Cemetery. What a long and incredible career General Vandergrift had, and he did command that 1st Marine Division in the crucial fight for Guadalcanal, and certainly his men loved him. He wasn't perfect. He made mistakes, as you've probably heard from some of the other stories that we've told in this second season, but who's perfect? We should give thanks for men like him and respect and help other people to know about his memory. How many people have ever heard of this man today? It's a shame that our war heroes are being ignored, and we can stop that. And another thing you can do to help things out is right over here at the QR code, take a trip over to Tales from the Script, my other podcast, where we talk about stories from the Bible, link it up to history. This season, we are focusing on the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Be sure and check it out. Until next time, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe or give us a like, or even better, both. Until next time, this is Louis saying thank you, God bless you, and we'll see you later.